Okay, so we're looking at Chapter 8D, Practice Problems. This chapter is all about amortizing loans, so that's what this set of questions is going to look at. We are looking at one amortizing loan, and we will just jump right into it. All right, consider this incomplete amortization schedule for a 4-year loan of $100,000. The interest rate is 8% compounded annually, and the loan calls for equal annual payments at the end of each year, starting with year 1. Okay, so just on that alone, we know that it's a 4-year loan. We know that this loan is an amortizing loan. If we were not given that this is an amortizing loan with an amortization schedule, we would be able to determine that it is an amortizing loan because this loan calls for equal payments. And in this class, that's our cue. All right, I'm just going to write down here what we're given off the bat. So we are given the present value of this loan because beginning of year 1 or end of year 0, we're given $100,000. That's our present value. We're given the rate for this loan, which is 8% compounded annually. And then we are given the number of years for this loan. So number of years is 4. So that's the number of years that this loan is going to amortize over, so that by the end of 4 years, the balance on this loan is going to be 0. All right, so we are using this information for the next 6 problems. Because that is the case, I'm just going to start off this problem by filling out the amortization schedule. Then once we have that filled out, we can go ahead and use our schedule to answer all the questions. Okay, so we know beginning of period balance is always going to equal the end of period balance in the year before that. So beginning of period balance for year 1 is 100,000, and I'm just going to copy that formula over for Excel so that in, let's say, year 3, our beginning of period balance is the end of period balance of year 2. All right, and then the next piece of this amortization schedule is a loan payment. That's something that we're not directly given, so we do have to solve for that. In fact, that is question 1, so we'll go ahead and solve for that down here. All right, to solve for this uniform loan payment, we are going to have to first identify which present value formula we have to use. In this case, it is going to be a constant cash flow project type, which means that we're going to use our annuity formula. We are not going to use our annuity due formula, because remember the difference between annuity and annuity due is that annuity due has the payment due at the beginning of period, when this clearly states at the very end of this little paragraph up here that equal payments are due at the end of each year. So this is just a regular annuity. All right, and I will just type out the annuity present value formula. Okay, so now we know the right formula to use to solve for this, except we have to solve for the loan payment, which is this cash flow right here. So it's not going to be as simple as just plugging in the values. We have to rearrange this formula. So once we have what equation we have to use, now all we have to do is solve. All right, so our uniform payment is going to be equal to our present value times our annual interest rate, all divided by 1 minus the quantity 1 plus our rate to the power of negative years. All right, and this number right here is a uniform payment. I'm going to go ahead and plug this into our amortization schedule up here. So our loan payment for year 1 is going to be this $30,000. And it's going to be the exact same for year 2, 3, and 4. So I'm just going to drag this over. All right, and now I have to figure out what the interest we're paying. For the interest portion, we are just going to take the current balance on the loan and multiply that by our annual interest rate. So our first year, it's just $8,000. I'm going to go ahead and drag that over because for year 2, year 3, year 4 is going to be the exact same formula. It's just going to be our beginning of period balance times our rate. Okay, now we need to figure out the amortization of our loan in year 1. This is a very simple number to find out since we already have our loan payment and interest portion. So this is just going to be your loan payment minus the interest portion of the loan. All right, and for year 1, that is $22,000. That is going to hold true for all periods. So for example, year 3, amortization portion of the loan is just going to be your loan payment minus the interest portion of the loan. All right, so now we are almost done figuring out our amortization schedule. We have a lot of information here. I just need to figure out the end of period balance. The end of period balance is going to be our beginning of period balance minus our amortization. Remember, amortization is the principal that you're paying down every single year. So a portion of this payment is going to the interest, and another portion of this payment is going to pay down that loan. Okay, so at the end of year 1, you have a loan of $77,000. I'm just going to drag this over because it's going to hold true for every single year. So for example, year 2, your end of period balance is going to be your beginning of period balance minus amortization in that period. And if we do all this correctly, our end of period balance for the end of a fully amortizing loan is going to be 0. All right, so now that we have our amortization schedule, let's go ahead and look at the questions and try and figure out what information they're asking for. Question 2, what is the beginning of period balance in year 2? All right, so we have that up here, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab that from the cell. The end period balance year 2 is a 77,800 and some value. So that's our answer to question 2. Question 3, what is the interest portion of a loan payment in year 2? The interest portion of a loan payment in year 2 is this $6,000 value right here. Question 4, what is the amortization amount in year 2? Right, the amortization amount in year 2 is this $23,000 value. Question 5, what is the end of period balance in year 2? Go ahead, get that from the table as well. $53,000 value. All right, and question 6, what is the end of period balance in year 5? All right, so we'll look at our table for this. End of period balance in year 5. Okay, so there is no year 5, so I'm just going to assume this is a typo and meant to be year 4. So we're just going to go ahead and say the end of period balance in year 5 is 0. Okay, so that is the end of Chapter 8D's practice problems. I hope this video was helpful. Again, there is a solutions file posted on Canvas with more information and all the formulas kind of written out, so hopefully that all makes sense. Be sure that you know how to create the amortization table by hand. Most of the time you won't have to go ahead and solve all the way throughout year 4. For example, these problems only asked for balances in years 2, 2, and 2. So if I had read the questions before filling out the amortization schedule, I in theory did not have to fill out any of these. It was no big deal because I was using Excel, but in your case when you're doing it by hand, for these types of problems, it makes sense to read the question beforehand.